Hi, my name is Paula Escobar. I'm an architect and urbanist. And in this episode, we're going to talk about my thesis that is centered around the question: is the city who shapes the citizens, or is the citizens who shapes the city? Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you have a great time with us.
Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica podcast partner AFRI. AFRI is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. I have the pleasure to welcome you, Paula, to Urbanistica podcast. Hey, and welcome.
Hi, Mustafa. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you so much for reaching out and emailing. I'm really happy to have you here. How are you doing?
Me too. I'm very happy. I listened to the podcast for a long time, and then I hear the podcast that was an episode that was only like you talking about your story and why you did it, and you say something that was like, that's exactly what I think. I need to contact him. So it was very nice.
Thanks. So where are you now? Because I know you have been traveling in the last 3 years, or 2 years.
Yeah, it has been a little bit crazy. Right now I'm in Tønsberg in Norway. I just arrived here like 2 months ago, but I expect to move soon again to Oslo.
Again. Okay, but is it for studies or like now you got a job?
I am looking for a job right now, but I initially moved to Norway because of my partner. So this time was not so academic.
Okay, so let's start with you. You are our guest, our storyteller. How would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about your passion?
So my name is Paula Escobar. I was born in Bogota, Colombia, which is a very big and exciting city, of which we can talk a little bit more later. I recently finished my 5-year degree in architecture. I speak Spanish, English, French, Italian, and now I'm learning Norwegian. But this basically means that very often my brain is just a mess and I confuse every single language. So don't test me. Well, I just moved to Norway, and as a fun part, I live on a boat.
In a boat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. The last time we met, just for I was in a boat, like moving from Rotterdam to Norway in the boat.
Okay, this is interesting. Also, we need to talk about this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So you study architecture in Colombia?
Yes, I studied architecture in Colombia, but I did my Erasmus in Spain, in Madrid, and I did my internship before my graduation in the Netherlands.
Nice. What made you study architecture?
Well, I think that since I was a kid, I started realizing that the spaces where we live really shape our behavior and are really important. There's not a memory without a place, and the place is completely connected to the feeling of the memory. So I also always wanted to find a way to contribute to the world, to the well-being, and to the improvement of our society. And I thought that through architecture is definitely something possible to do. And also because I think that architecture opens so many doors. It's really amazing. Like you can do so many things and specialize in so many aspects. So I really enjoyed that. It's a very varied and broad career that allows you to experience a lot of things. I remember that once someone told me like an architect needs to know a little bit about everything. And I was like, okay,
That's true.
okay, I can do that. I want to do that.
Yes, yes. And like, was it a tough program to study compared to your friends who maybe study other programs?
Yes, yes, definitely. I think that especially in time management, and also because architecture is somewhere where you have to create. It's not just learning. It's just not like a one plus one equal. It is creating, and you also have to go a little bit deep down inside of you for being able to produce something and understand from where are you creating it, and then understand also all the implications that your design is going to have. And definitely, you do need to know a little bit about everything. You do need to read a lot to get very involved in the situation. So I don't know if it was harder than other programs because I like it, so I enjoy it. But yeah, definitely time management and especially the models and these kind of things that take so much time can be very demanding.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you. And in this episode, we're going to talk about your thesis, which is really interesting. And I will put the link. It's very, very beautifully done. So, congratulations for the very beautiful and interesting thesis. So, I'm thinking that you can give us like a highlight, a very short highlight about what is it about, and then we can go into the details. What do you think?
Okay, perfect. So, if it's okay, I would like to read the first extract of the thesis. It says, this project was born out of curiosity, of wanting to understand how, why, when, and where, from the prevailing need to ask questions, not necessarily to find their answers, but to approach the subject analytically based on critical thinking. If some answers arise during the journey and development of these projects, they will always be welcome, but the primary objective is to water the seeds of curiosity in all those who read this book.
Yes, and now we want to listen to your abstract.
So yeah, this is like the soul of the project, and more concrete, the body of the project is based on the trying to understand the relationship between city, citizen, and well-being, and how we can influence this relationship. We as humans, we as citizens, and we as architects. And if we can influence it, it comes like the question, if it's possible to influence it in a positive way, in a negative way, is it possible to promote certain behaviors? So the thesis tries to analyze this question through different perspectives, through different areas of knowledge, taking into account that the city it's really just about everything. It's not just about buildings. So we really need to take into account all other areas of knowledge in order to understand how is it working and how we can improve it. So that's like the general outline.
Exactly. But what is like the reason that made you focus on this topic or this aspect within city design and architecture?
Well, I always had a lot of interest like in the different, and I mean different according to my normal, to my environment, because at the end everything is normal for someone. And I started wondering like what does it why is so maybe so different the idea, for example, a neighborhood in the north of Colombia by the coast, in for example Cartagena, or the idea of a neighborhood in Bogota that is 2,600 meters above the level of the ocean. Like it is a neighborhood. We kind of have a normal average idea of what a neighborhood is, but they actually behave in completely different ways. I remember that once someone told me, this was a person from the coast, and she told me, I want to come back to the coast because here in Bogota, everyone is so cold. The doors are closed. The people, I don't know who the neighbors are. So I started thinking a lot about this comment, and yeah, it's true that in the coast, literally the doors are always open because it's warm. So how our environment affects us so much, how we can behave and how we can, yeah, develop ourselves. So then it becomes more like um, comparing countries, comparing cultures. Is it maybe about yeah, culture, or maybe it's completely random, or maybe there is a little bit of influence of the design.
Yeah. But like when you because the topic is very big.
Yeah.
And I can imagine, okay, based on my limited experience, so I can imagine when you tell a professor or a doctor in a university, hey, I want to do my thesis about this, they will tell you, no, 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 no. This is like really big. You need to be very limited within your research question. So, like, how was this journey of, okay, adjusting the research question, narrow it down?
Yeah, well, it was not so easy. I definitely
I
had
can imagine.
some very good supporters and some in the other side. Um, so yeah, it started with the idea that it is very nice to think about architecture, but we always have to be concrete. And my teacher always told me you have to touch the city. You have to go down to ground it and to make it real. You can't stay like in the world of the ideas. So it was a very new process, because also I think that as architecture student, what is expected to me mainly is a building.
Mm,
So to come up with something so theoretical was a little bit hard. So it meant that I also had to discover my path step by step. And definitely with the support of different teachers, and it was a hard fight to ground it, really.
yeah. But do you recommend like architecture students to also like go more out of what we usually do, like designing maybe the thesis end up with a proposal of a building or a site?
I will say that the thesis is really, for me, the thesis was me, was really to show who I am, to show what I can do, what I'm passionate about. And I think that thesis should be that. It's like almost the last chance we have to do something like academic, like without someone telling us what we have to do. So I really think that it should be about passion. And yeah, it's going to be hard if you choose a little bit of a different road than the normal building. If you like the building, that's perfectly okay. Just do it with soul, do it with art. If you want it,
Yeah.
go on, go for it.
Yeah. So let's talk about like more the content of the thesis.
Hmm.
And it's interesting that you started like you defining what is city and then what is citizen. So yeah, the stage is yours.
Okay,
Inspire us.
so I contemplate the idea of the citizen as any being that experiences the city, from a teenager, adult, baby, low or high income. Anyone who is experiencing the city is part of it, and this also means that it has duties and rights. And in this order of ideas, and taking into account that we as humans are vulnerable, our nature is vulnerable, we also need to take into account the nature, the ecosystem, and the environment. And the ecosystem, the nature, also has rights, and it also needs to be taken into account as part of the city. And the city is where everything develops. It's like the scenario of our lives.
And is this like Paula? Is this based on books you read, or what is this based on?
Well, for the development of the thesis, like the I used several methods. Since I didn't know like what was the path, I started first thinking maybe surveys and maybe interviews are the best way to understand how to develop this. Later, I found out that not really, because surveys and interviews are actually almost a whole degree. Like you really need to do it very well if you actually want to have good data. And it's not my case. I'm not specialized on surveys or interviews. So then I focus more in the research and analysis of archive to check different books, authors, um, and books, authors, articles, theses, in order to generate a very big flow of ideas, concepts. Like I really wanted to take a little bit of everything and brainstorm a lot, and then being able to filter all the information. And it was very nice because I found a lot of information. It was just a huge amount of information, the majority very, very specific, very architecture through art, but not architecture through art and cooking, for example. There was a little bit of everything, but they were not connected. So that was my intention, to start to connect. And yeah, it was mainly based on different authors, even your podcast. Your
Oh, thank you
podcast
so
was a
much.
very good help. I don't remember exactly which episode, but it did help a lot. And it was very nice to just hear different ideas that
Yeah,
it's not so easy to find.
happy to hear that. So, like a citizen, like could it be maybe a visitor to a city? Could it count as a citizen as well?
Yeah, definitely. Doesn't matter how long you are there and you have needs and you are contributing to the good or the bad part of the city. And yeah, you are definitely a citizen, even
So, if I understand you correctly, anybody, any human being within the boundary of a city is a citizen.
yeah. And
Yeah,
this is a little bit tricky, but not only humans, also the animals, also the nature.
yeah.
Maybe not as the whole idea of a citizen, but we do need to understand that they have rights, and we also
Mm.
need to take into account their needs.
So we're talking about every creator with life.
Yes.
Could it be like this?
Hmm.
Yeah. So human, animals, and nature,
Yes.
and the city.
And the city will be really like the scenario where our lives develop, like um the scenario is the best
Is
way
like
I could
is it like
describe it, because
the physical infrastructure, like the hardware, or no?
no, that was a very interesting part to find out, that city, we use the word city for describe so many things, completely different things. And it's just
Like
like a city in Norway to a city in Colombia to a city in India. They are completely different. Maybe they belong to the same kind of family, but they are really different. So what I found out is that a city is more about the idea we have of it, and the city at the end becomes really the collective, the people, what we do of it. It's not the buildings, it's the space between the buildings and how we are interacting in that space, and especially how we are experiencing that space. A city can be awesome, certain kind of city can be awesome for example, I don't know, a journalist or a fashion related person. New York must be awesome. But if you are a more quiet person that you don't like so much interaction, maybe that's not a good city for you. So that's completely subjective.
mm. Because like what we usually, okay, urban practitioners, what we usually have the idea of the city is that it's the physical infrastructure, the hardware.
Hmm.
And but when I'm listening to you now, you're telling more. It's like about the story or how we. It's the life more, not really the physical buildings and infrastructure.
Well, the physical and infrastructural part definitely is very important and is the base for everything to develop. Um,
Mm.
but the city does not exist without citizens. There can be people, there can be citizens in a tiny town, but there's no city without citizens. So the infrastructure is super important. We really need it in order to develop certain skills or abilities inside of the city. But I do think that the heart and the soul of the city is the people. The bones is the structure. So we need both.
Yeah, exactly. And what did we learn from the past, from the experience?
So during the development of the thesis, the first thing that I found out is that I really like this subject. I really like it and I really want to keep learning about it. And I'm definitely very passionate about. I also learned that there is a lot of information, so much that we don't have access to it. I don't know if right now, how does it work different universities, but at least I would have liked to see more information in my education. For example, we had 4 classes of history during these 5 years of education, but we never had any information about Asian architecture history. And I went and I asked to my teachers why we don't have this. And they said there's just not enough time. But this is very important. So okay, there's no time for have it as the main, but can I is an election, is there a class that I can choose? No, there's nothing. So there's so much more information that we need to access and we need to share. Especially I learned a lot about that. I also learned that the one of the most important concepts of the thesis is the well-being. So when I started researching for well-being, I noticed that we don't really know much about it, and we don't really understand like the whole dimension of well-being.
Yeah. Because
After
like it's too big, you know, like even me, I don't know exactly what is, or when we say well-being, what are we talking about?
when we normally when we were talking about well-being, people normally was thinking about having enough money and basically
Feel, I
that,
mean,
and having,
feeling healthy, maybe,
yeah, physically
or
healthy, but not mentally. That was not part of
okay.
the conversation. And I do have to say that after COVID-19, this did improve a little bit. I did found an interesting amount of documents about well-being and mental health during COVID, during the quarantine, but not before and not after, like very, very focused. And well-being is mainly it is about happiness, it is about physical health, also, and very important, about mental health. It's also about being able to, for example, trust your government, to feel that you can, that there is a base that will support you, that the government will be there for supporting you. It is also about feeling the freedom that you can choose different things in your life. So it's a really broad aspect. Before, we used to also measure like the success of a country through the GDP. Yeah, GDP. And this only talks about the amount of money, how the country has grown economically, and that's very nice. But that you grow economically doesn't mean that you grow in equity and economy.
Yeah.
So it's very different.
So this is like the how you define well-being with with all these different aspects within this topic or umbrella.
Yeah, and it also changes a little bit from culture to culture. For some cultures, is, for example, more important to have a car or to be more focused on religion. So it changes a little bit, but it is like a broad how to say it. Yeah, there's a lot of aspects that are involved, and you definitely need to connect a lot of dots first to find out what are the dots and then to connect them. And what I did in the thesis was like a diagram that looks a little bit like a virus, a little bit like corona, and with some lines of how this can be related to well-being. And there's a space there for adding more and more, because it's just, this is not a static project. The book, it was printed, but it needs to keep evolving and growing. And the idea of it is that it's a very interactive book, that you can participate, that you can write down your questions and participate of it, that it becomes a conversation, and it's very inviting to question.
Yeah, that's true. I will, as I mentioned, I will put the link. But I saw it's like very interesting because you, how to say, you can use it as a guidebook or handbook just to start a conversation and also build on it. So it's really good that you didn't have to say put a lot of text there,
Yeah.
and you have a good diagrams, easy to understand.
Yeah, it was a big effort to make the book playful I didn't want to just make a PDF of pages and pages to read because I wouldn't read it. So I really wanted to do it like very interactive, colorful, yeah, with a lot of information because there's a lot, with a lot of questions. That's like the base of the project, to just make questions. There's not a bad question. Any question helps. Um, and yeah, try to make it a little bit more fun. Maybe sometimes also architects that try to be very serious and no, this is like this, and I know it's open and everyone can contribute.
Yeah. So if you summarize what we learned from the experience, what would you say?
That we need to open more the conversation, to participate, and to take action. And action, it doesn't mean that you have to do something amazing and great today. It's the little actions, and it's to be able to sustain that action during certain amount of time. But to understand that as a citizen, doesn't matter what you do have power, and you do have a possibility to promote, to increase, or to become better citizen. So that's one of the most important. And yeah, also the need for connecting more the information. Like there is a lot of information here and there. I think that we need to connect it and to think about the city and about our lives more as a whole, not that what is happening in the other side of the world doesn't affect me. No, it does affect you. It does. So realize that and use it for not only build back, but build back better.
Yes. And you made proposals, a proposal for this. So what is like your proposal for this challenge?
Okay.
And tell us about the proposal and please in details.
Okay. So there's like several kind of proposals. The first proposal is like the invitation to keep asking and to rethink what is our normal, to understand that the space in which we develop our lives is it expresses itself and is reproducing a system, and we are responsible for that system. So the space is saying something, and what is saying is our responsibility. If you feel welcome or if I don't feel welcome is something that the space is saying, and we all are responsible for that. Also, the comprehension of the vulnerability as a main characteristic of us humans. There's not the conversation about the global warming. It's not about if the world will survive or not. Probably the world, the planet that is as it is, will survive much better without us. The issue is, will we survive? It's we who need the planet, not the planet to us. So we are in our inherent characteristic vulnerable. And taking that idea into account, it means that we need to take care. Take care of what? Take care of each other, take care of ourselves, and take care of nature. And conceiving the city as a caring element itself, it will really change our paradigm and our way to see things and to behave. If I think that by me taking certain actions while I walk through the city, I am taking care of someone, I think that that will be a very nice switch of ideas. And the more concrete proposal is the system for the intervention of public spaces and a methodological guide on the city that supports all the, in this case, more professional people that is involved in creating the city. So the first step for developing this system was to understand what are the main aspects that affect well-being. So the first one is transport. And why transport? Because it literally connects everything. It literally opens the possibility to connect, to go to a different place and to exchange knowledge, information, my knowledge for your money. It is about connection. And we definitely need it in a city, especially in the very big cities that we are facing right now. And second, the public space. Why is so important? Because it's there where we are developing our lives. Not everyone has a house. Not everyone has a school, but we, all of us, have the street. We always have the public space. And I think that we need to understand the public space as an extension of the classroom or of the where are we learning. We always think that we learn our values at home, our knowledge at school, but we are learning a lot in the streets. We understand what is right, what is not, and yeah, to understand that we are educating people and we are being educated in this way, it's very important. So those are the two main aspects: transport and public space. And after that, that gave me the base for establish the design principles of the care paradigm, like well-being paradigm or caring paradigm. So the first one is cohesion. The infrastructure must be integrated, clear and easy to understand for everyone. For everyone. You shouldn't need to wonder. It should be super easy to understand. Then number two is inclusivity. Inclusivity for, yeah, literally everyone. It must take into account the diverse range of needs of our population. And here I always wonder, like, okay, we, for example, use sound for indicate that is possible to cross the street, and this is mainly focused on people that can see and blind people. But what happens, for example, with a person in the range of the neurodiversity that really doesn't handle so well the strong sounds? So how are we going to contemplate like the biggest range of neurodiversity, the spectrum? The spectrum is the word that I was looking for. Because we all are part of it. Here is a little bit interesting story is that when I first arrived to Madrid, I noticed that there was a lot of people with special abilities, maybe blind people, maybe different kinds of abilities. And my first reaction was like, oh wow, I never seen that much people before like this. There's not that much people with different needs in Bogota. And then, like after a week, I noticed, no, obviously there is this amount of people in Colombia, especially with our size, but I don't see them because there's not the infrastructure for them to be free and to have a life and to go outside. They exist, but they exist inside of their houses, and that was like really mind blowing. Also, first to see my initial reaction and then this comprehension was like, wow, we need to do something about this. We really need. So the third one is safety. Safety definitely in infrastructure, in road safety, and perception of safety is also very important. Then number four will be quality. Quality not only in the infrastructure, but also in the laws. To who do we want to give priority? Who is the most important part of this society? Is it the pedestrian? Is it the car? Is it the industries? Who will have the most rights? And last, sustainable. Sustainable, and we normally think about sustainable in terms of ecology and nature, and yes, but also in terms of time. What is actually possible to keep, to maintain for a long time, and to maintain with limited resources. So those are the 5 principles of the paradigm of care and well-being. And after that, those principles were the base for the system for the intervention of public spaces of the well-being. And here it's important to say that this system it's a guide. it's something that can expand and contract. It's not about copy and paste, because the project understands since the beginning that city is just a huge thing, impossible to define. So I cannot give you an equation or an equation that will make your city great and we'll be happy. It's something that you really need to adapt and analyze according to the needs of this specific city. So the four phases are before the intervention. You basically ask where is needed, why is needed, what is needed. The second is the formulation and verification. This means to formulate the strategies and then to ask one more time, is this really what we need? Or this is what we, maybe architects, think that it's needed? Maybe there's a little bit more of research that needs to be done. Then is the intervention, apply the strategies and be very open also to the feedback, the direct feedback that the city gives to the specific project, but also the indirect. There's a lot happening that is not expressed through words. And the last one is very important, that is post-intervention. I think that in architecture, it has become very common to just make your building and that's it. Bye. I did my job. I have nothing to do anymore with it. And one of the most important parts of it is the maintenance, the sustainability. And in the case of the city is definitely changing all the time. The citizens are changing. So the project also needs to be able to evolve until certain degree. So these are the four main phases. And in the thesis, I do, in this intention to ground it and to touch it and to apply it, I do an example of how it could be used.
Can you share with us like the example?
Yeah. Would it be okay if I share a screen for having that help?
Yeah. So you can read from it and so on. So like before you get into the like case and describe it to us. So this what you mentioned is a kind of a guide for professionals when they work on a project, right?
Yeah.
To like a kind of rethink the different elements within ours, like as you mentioned, mobility, public space, safety, and so on.
The first part of the thesis is more focused to everyone. Everyone to be able to understand a little bit the background of the city, what is happening, and really I consider very important the part of understanding that the city is reproducing a system of beliefs, of values, and we are responsible for that. So that's like very general for a general target. And then when we start talking about the principles and the system and the methodological guide, it is more focused on professionals, not only architects, but sociologists, the economics, the everything. I have it's very important to understand that our building, even if we are more focused in the architecture part of it, our building will have an effect in the city. That's exactly why we are doing it. We wanted to, but there's a lot of direct and indirect effects. There's a lot of desired effects and a lot of not so desired ones. So being able to understand better what is the like the domino that will happen after our project. So as example, I took Bogota. It was my city. Well, first, Bogota is a very big city. It's approximately 10 million people. And the majority of the people, honestly, doesn't live in very good conditions. There's a lot of things that we could do better. And it's also a city where the majority of the people comes to the center to work every day. So even though we have Transmilenio, that is our fast transport system, and it's a good system, is failing because it's not enough. it can be good, but it's just not enough for the amount of people we have and for the kind of city we have. That means that there's only a couple of centers and everyone comes to these areas. So the selected area was the 116th Street roundabout, crossing with the motorway. So first is like a short analysis of what is happening in the area. It's an area that definitely has all the different kind of transport systems. It also has the system for the bikes, not completely well implemented, but an attempt. And then we go to the questions for analysis. So we understand that the project has several areas that need to be acknowledged. For example, space, social, economic, sustainability and urban transport, and philosophy and wellness. So here I propose approximately 4 questions per every aspect. These questions have the intention to dig a little bit more in the city, in the area, and trying to understand. And for example, in terms of space, the first question is, what is the main use of the land? In the social part, what does the population living there needs? Or for example, the economic, is the public space being used? Because there's a lot of places where there's huge, very big, nice parks, but they are not being used. There is actually a very interesting project like that in Bogota. I think the name is Parque Tercer Milenio. That is, it is a very nice park, but no one uses it. So it's very interesting to try to understand these kind of things. So then we go to the more like normal analysis about the ecological structure, the uses, the type of businesses. It's also very important to take into account the visibility of the area. Who sees me? If I'm in this point, no one sees me, and there's no other people is not taking care of me through looking at me. So that's very important to understand. Then we go to the diagnosis. And the idea is to center more our attention in the qualitative than in the quantitative. So for example, how is the city taking care of me? If it's raining and the buildings around are closed, is there any space where I can walk, where I don't get wet? If, for example, I'm walking with my children, is there restrooms and toilets around? And you had a very interesting episode about that. There's no public toilets in Bogota. So it's because we don't need it? No, we definitely need it. So what is happening there? Or if, for example, if I have a specific need, like we talked before about the spectrum of the neurodiversity, are they visual cues? Are they auditory cues? So it is very important to contemplate different kind of needs. Well, then we evaluate the main problematics of the area. In this case, the quality of the streets were not good. The management of the trash was not good. It was an area with a lot of potential because, as you can see, it's a roundabout. It's a very important street. All the spaces under the building are businesses. But what happened a long time ago is that it was being so successful and it was going so well that the people living around was not happy. They were having a lot of people, especially during the nights. So what they did is that they closed the roundabout. They closed it for cars. So suddenly everything died there. Now there's some things here and there, but it basically died, and now no one is using it and no one is paying attention to it. So this area always has been very interesting for me because I always thought, we could take so much more advantage of the good parts of it, also taking into account the needs of the people living around, especially them. In this case, are the most important. So we also found out, some potentialities, like I told you before, about the shelter for pedestrians or the large amount of space for development and economic activity. So after that, we connect the problems and potentialities. We classify it according to the what kind of problematic or potentiality they are. For example, if they are from physical space, or is more related to the economic. Yeah. So after that comes the compositions of aspects to be intervened. So we have two lines. The base one is the main area of knowledge, the complementary area of knowledge, and the essential area of knowledge. So the essential, for example, is the citizen. We always will need the city. The main area, for example, in this case, was the physical space, and the complementary area of knowledge was the philosophy. And here we are talking about the potentiality. So these are the aspects to be addressed. So about physical space, that is the purple one, we start with a spider net diagram, in order to combine the different strategies according to what the area needs. So maybe you need more of reconfiguration, but you don't need so much of consolidation because it's a consolidated area. But maybe you need to recognize better what we already have, or we need to recover some aspects of it. So this expands and contracts according to the need of the space. After that, we have the methodological guide. This one is very interesting, and it was very hard to develop. And the intention of this one is to show not all the points, because all the points are impossible, but how the most important points can connect, and how everything is connected directly or indirectly. So, for example, when we talk...
Paula, you developed this by yourself?
So this was a very hard process. I developed it with the help of my teachers, of mainly my director, with a lot of help from a lot of information that I found online. Actually, I think that the one of the ones that helped me most was presented in one of your episodes. But it was like this attempt of trying to connect all the information. So there are certainly parts of this that you can find somewhere else, because they were the inspiration, and the attempt was to connect that information. So this is like the wheel of the well-being paradigm. Then we have the next layer is the 5 principles: safety, sustainability, cohesiveness, inclusivity, and quality. After that, the next one is the different areas of knowledge, the main areas of knowledge, like economics or sustainability or philosophy. And after that, the idea is to start focusing more and more and more in how this applies to the city. So, for example, when we talk about the economic and politics, then we talk about commerce and service. Then in this specific case, we talk more about microeconomic, and we talk about local economy. So how does that represents in the city? So in the case of the example that I was showing you, it will be all those tiny locals around the roundabout, how this can be promoted in a better way. Also taking into account, for example, the sustainability in time and with natural, finite resources. So this wheel can also be torn, And for example, then you can apply the green, the philosophy and history to the commerce and services. What is the philosophy that we want to implement in our economics? So everything is really very connected directly or indirectly. So after that, we need to establish what is the cost benefit of our project. Does it really make sense to do it? Or maybe not so much. Maybe we need to scale down, and maybe there's something that has more benefits for less cost. And since we are in a capitalistic system, we do need to understand who will help us to, who will be our sponsor, and what will be the benefits in short and long term. So, for example, for example, the local city hall can be very interested in strengthening the community park network and local commerce. And then, since you already mentioned commerce, maybe some private will be interested in that, and how we can connect, like join our forces and improve our cities. So then we need to ask the questions for consistency and integration of verification. So we need to again contemplate aspects social, appearance of architecture, and aspects of landscaping, because it sounds maybe a little bit repetitive, but because it is. We do have to contemplate on every part of it. We cannot say at any point like, oh, the social aspect is already done. We don't have to think about it anymore. No, constantly you have to do it. So, for example, we ask questions like, what is the social value of this intervention? Maybe there's not that much economic value, but social a lot. And I think that something that we need to understand as cities is that when we have happy citizens, our economy will be better. That I think that one of the most important things that we can understand as cities is that we can use the happiness of our citizens and make them into assets. So this is not about just go completely out of capitalism and only focus in the social. No, it's how we can join both and one contributing to the other. We don't need to be unhappy in a job in order to make a lot of money. We can mix both. So, for example, a question asked in the section of architectural appearance is, are the materials used in the intervention ecological and local? Or, for example, what will be the destination of the elements removed from the space? I know that in certain parts of Europe, you already need to make a guide of what's going to happen with the building that I'm building right now when we need to destroy it. And I think that's super important. And that's something that, according to what I know, has not been implemented yet in Latin America. But it's part of understand the consequences of our projects, of our actions, and in general. And for example, in the landscape aspect, we talk about a lot of how we are preserving the fauna and flora of the area. If we are going to make a new project, we still need to contemplate that there's someone living here, maybe a bird, maybe, I don't know, other kind of animals, and we need to preserve that life. We need to take them into account. They have also rights, and we need them. They bring so much good consequences to our mental health and physical health that we need to understand that we really need them. So the next one, well, here is, I already show how is the intervention according to the problem or according to the potential, how we could start to use better these spaces without having to use that much money. Actually, a lot of projects are very possible to do with what we have or with not so big interventions or budget. So here are the both examples. So the the idea and development of these images were the idea was like mine. The graphical part was made by a very good friend that is also architect, Manuel Amado. Since I was focusing so much more like in the theoretical part of it, she helped me with this part. So then after the implementation, we need to understand what are the effects of the implementation. Have the project have the results that we expected? Have other results that we didn't expect but is happening? Maybe we thought that this area was going to be used in certain way, but instead the people find a completely different way to use it and it's working, or maybe it's not working, and we need to check how are we going to continue. And that is like the initial analysis of the implementation. And then after a while, we also need to do a follow-up of the transformation of what is happening in the site. There's a interesting case in Colombia about a library called La Biblioteca España in Medellin, Colombia. And this library was like super beautiful at the beginning. It won a lot of prizes. It was super good because it was in a not so privileged area of the city. So everything looked amazing. And after, I don't remember exactly how long it was, if it was just like three years, the facade started falling.
Oh.
And it's like, what? But it won so many prizes. It was so good, so perfect. So it's like, when also arises the question, when should we give a prize to a building or to a project? As soon as it's open, or after 3 years when we know that it's working?
Interesting. Okay, this is a very interesting question, yeah?
And yeah, that was it. At the end, the final reflection, I would like to read that part because it was very nice. I end up the document saying, may curiosity be our engine, may sowing seeds be our means, may we continue working every day for a better society, a more equitable one, a freer one, where we all have our place, where the right to the city becomes a reality.
It's really really interesting. I also like to recommend the listener to check the PDF, and you will like understand it more with also especially with the interesting diagrams and you made. So thanks for sharing. And so like how do you recommend us to use what you produce as a professional? So what is your recommendation to us?
I think that as professionals, the most important part is to understand that we have a lot of responsibility, that we are creating. It's a very nice profession because we are creating, and that implies a lot of responsibility. So we need to start thinking more broadly and not only about architecture and buildings, but more about all the aspects that are related to the city. So just by reading it and being aware that this exists, it helps a lot. And then try to actually implement it in the process of your project. That will be very nice, and will be very happy if you do it. I really would like to know about it. But yeah, the most important thing is to keep asking questions, to even if you think that you already know, even if you already have designed this so many times, wonder what new questions you can come up with, and from which areas of different knowledge. Maybe asking your friends, different people, hey, how do you feel about this? What do you think? For me, it's super clear that this is a super nice experience and I have a lot of fun here. For me, it's completely different. Maybe, I don't know, my knee hurts, so this grass is
Yeah.
horrible for me.
So are your recommendation to us as urban professionals that we read the thesis and also use the questions in our projects, just like to start a discussion?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Paula. And also, again, congratulations. Really, really well done.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. How was, because I know you also traveled abroad during your studies. So I'd love to know more about this as well, because I'm in love also with studying abroad. So tell me, where did you study
Yeah.
and how was it?
So I studied mainly. I did my degree in Bogota, Colombia. I chose an university that gave me the like international options. That was since always my most important part of it, because I knew I wanted to travel, to get to new different worlds. So the first option was my Erasmus in Madrid. That was very nice because I thought that I was not going to be selected, but I still tried and it
Nice.
worked. Then I didn't tell anyone. So then when it happened, was like, what am I
Yeah.
going to do now?
What did your family say?
So they were happy. They congratulate me a lot, and they knew that it's something that I always wanted to do.
Nice,
So
nice. Good job.
so they also ask, how are you going to do
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
I don't know, but it's happening.
Yeah. So you went to Madrid. How was it the difference in culture or no? That was fine.
It was yeah, some difference in culture, but I wouldn't say that big difference. Actually, in any of my experiences so far, I will say that there's a lot of big difference. I will say that there's more like small ones. And it was definitely a very nice experience. I think that when you study, when you live somewhere else, also when you travel, but even more when you live somewhere else, you get to know so much more about yourself, and you get like some more many options of how to develop yourself. It's like, yeah, a lot of things that doesn't exist
Yeah.
in one place now exist in this place, and now it becomes a possibility. And now mm I can find myself in all these things. It's also, I think that in every place where I go, different things have been required from me as Paula. So I think that there is a lot of Paulas out there. I think that there was one in Italy, there
Yeah.
was one in the Netherlands, because every culture is asking
Mm.
something different from you, and you really need to discover how to adapt while still being
Exactly.
yourself.
You don't lose yourself, but you upgrade it somehow.
Exactly. You can add more
Yeah.
toppings to the.
So what did you bring back home with you from all these trips, apart from like the academic knowledge? But as what is like your biggest learning?
Uh, that the difference and diversity is good, is something that we should want to have. If there's homogeneity in our community, in our society, there's maybe something we are not doing so well. Diversity is good, is something that we should want, and the difference is just amazing. It's just about other ways to experience this like human experience. I really like the phrase, the one that says all the roads lead to Rome, because I think that it's about that. I think that at the end, we as humans, we all of us are looking for love, for belonging, for
Well-being.
security, for well-being, exactly. And how we achieve that, mm, it's completely different, but we all are trying to achieve the same. So being able to live in different places, to travel, to also in the academic part, to study from different perspectives, it's just realize there's a lot of more paths and more ways to achieve the same happiness and love
I think
and development.
there's so many interesting science research about like why you should be diverse and so on, because we are working on this also at AFRI, like what's in it for us if we are more diverse. But what I think is like it's interesting for like individual level. It's interesting to see how different people think, approach. So you learn a lot of different methods and different ways to achieve your goals. So instead of thinking, okay, this is Mustafa's method, and how can I achieve my goals? Maybe I can listen to Paula, or I see what maybe Adam is doing, and then I can develop my way of thinking, and maybe it's easier for me to achieve my goal.
Exactly. Something that has been very nice for me to realize is like the uh, food habits, like the eating habits in different countries. It's so different to Colombia. I remember that when I arrived to Europe, someone asked me like, "How many warm meals you have per day?" And I was like, "Warm meals? Like everything is warm except for cereal and salad, no?" And then you arrive to Norway, where everything is like bread or wasa and like a
Yeah, yeah.
piece of cheese on top, and that is lunch. And
Weird.
it's like, okay, so now I understand what a
Exactly. Yeah,
warm
yeah.
meal is.
Do you?
So that's
Yeah. Did it
interesting.
happen to you also,
Tell
like
me.
when you came back home after doing Erasmus, that you felt that your let's say some, it's important to say some, not all, of your classmate or friends, they're not really understanding what you're talking about or the experience you had. You feel like you became a kind of wiser or more like with more experience. They are not literally catching up. Like you're not the same anymore. You're not on the same level anymore. Did
Yeah.
you feel that as well? Because I felt it here.
I don't know if
Not
wiser,
maybe not
because
wiser,
in the
not
same
wiser,
way
but
as
let's
with
say
the.
like you're not, you don't have the same way of thinking anymore. You're like you're here and they are another level.
Yeah, actually, that has happened every time that I have gone in a big trip. Um, and it's just so amazing also to come back and see, when you see that everything around you is the same, you also notice how different you are now. And that is like, oh wow, it was completely worth it what it took to make that trip. I also spent like uh 6 weeks in Mexico a couple of years ago. I went by my own. I went without telling anyone, almost anyone. I just went. And then when I came back, it was like 6 weeks before. And I was like,
From the future.
I don't know, 6 years. Yeah,
Yeah, I felt the
exactly.
same. Like
So,
it feels like you're coming back. You're like 5 years ahead. You know?
mhm. Yeah, it is very nice. And you start to wonder a lot of things. What is normal? Why we do this? Why, when you do this,
Yeah.
I feel or I think in a certain way. A funny cultural difference that I found around the world is how we do the dishes. Like in Colombia, you always do it by hand with
Yeah.
the sponge. As soon as you arrive to Europe, there's the idea of a dishwasher. That's already different. And then when I arrived to Scandinavia, there was a lot of brushes, like the normal IKEA brush in the by the sink, and I was like, why is that there? Like, what a messy person, I thought. And then I realized how nice it is to do the dishes with a brush. So it's nice. And also, yeah, like to being able to catch myself like in that like little judgment, like thinking how messy is this person, and then being like, oh no, how you were wrong, Paula. You
This
need
is
to.
what like this is what I'm talking about, is that it's about upgrading yourself and the way you think and your beliefs, you know. Because we are not always right, and our culture doesn't mean like it's the best culture, perfect culture ever. So even the values, maybe we believe in something, but if you go abroad and explore what's there out there, then you can compare and upgrade and see what is good for you and for the society.
Exactly. I think that just it's adding more toppings. It's never you it's always optional. I mean, whatever you learn somewhere else, you choose if you
Yeah,
keep it,
exactly.
or you say no. I don't really
Yeah.
identify with this.
I mean,
Thanks,
yeah.
but no.
Hopefully you can keep it and work on it. In some countries you cannot, you know, because you're not allowed, but hopefully you can do that. So like to finish up this section about traveling and studying abroad. Do you why I know that you recommend students to go abroad, but why you recommend them to do that?
I will recommend it because it is such a, yeah, it is like a boost of in life. It's like, yeah, boost in life is, you get to experience everything like so much more real, alive. That traveling is very nice, but when you are living somewhere, you really have to understand the culture, the society, the social cues. How does it work? What does it mean this here? And I'm a little bit obsessed in trying to connect the neurons of my brain in different ways, because I know that our brains can be a little bit lazy, and then we take one path, they keep going that path, shortcuts. So for me to try to learn different languages, to try to learn different things, different cultures, to adapt, is to connect my brain in different ways. And yeah, at the end, really diversity is the best that can happen to us. And to I think that one of the biggest privilege is to be able to have options, and uh, to have the idea that can come up with questions. Like, I didn't know that I could come up with the question, what is a warm meal? Now I know that there's a
Yeah,
difference.
yeah,
So
yeah,
just tiny things, but then they express through a lot of very big things, and it's definitely something that everyone should try. Especially I would recommend to maybe change of continent, to do it as extreme as you can. I think that the people in Latin America needs to see. I don't know if it happens to everyone, but I think that in Latin America we see Europe like as better than us a little bit. So I think that it's very nice to come to Europe and realize that here there's also just people trying to be happy, and there's no
yeah.
better.
Sorry, sorry for interruption, but we do this as well. We say, usually we say, okay, maybe this country is better than ours, maybe this country is better than ours, but we just assume. But the thing is that we
Mhm.
should be concrete, like in what we're talking about. Are we talking about, I don't know, nature, or are we talking about cars, or are we talking about like
Exactly.
academia? So we shouldn't really assume that this country is better than us. And even by going there, it's not about like just learning, but also about giving, like show what you have in your country and exchanging. It's about exchanging. So even like if you go to Europe, you can teach or give what good thing you have in Latin America. At the same time, like you learn from them, and it's about like exchanging. So they are also learn from you. It's not only about you learning from them.
Exactly. And one document that I read for the thesis that was super interesting was the happiness worldwide record. I don't remember exactly the name, but it has a very interesting question, like why Scandinavia is always between the happiest people in the world, when they are like so serious, so cold, so not joyful. And what I found out is the difference between joyful and happy. Maybe we people from a little bit more from the South, Latin American people, we are very joyful and extrovert. Some, not me. um, and try to, yeah, like dance, and like this like carnival idea that some people has of Latin America, and that is being joyful. But being happy is basically to be able to trust your government, to have access to health, to don't wonder if you have food for tonight, and to feel free. In Latin America, what we have is a lot of good vibe, basically, and a lot of good positive thinking. That, yeah, I don't have food for tonight, but I will
Yeah,
find my
exactly.
way.
Yeah, we have the
So
same,
so
like in my home country in Iraq. Like maybe some families, unfortunately, they don't know like if they will eat or not. But okay, the way of thinking, they
mhm.
okay, we will figure out that. What we can do else, we have no choice. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and also people from very developed countries, I think that they need to go to less. less developed, and again with a
Yeah,
mark there, less developed in certain areas, not in
exactly. Yeah,
all of the areas. But I do think that our responsibility that we have as humans is to acknowledge
true,
our privilege.
true. Interesting answer, Paula. And are you ready for the final section of this episode? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it was much faster than I thought, but yeah.
and it's about you giving messages. We have three questions. The first one is you give a message to yourself. So, what is your message to Paula?
Well, my message to myself will be like, keep calm, go with the flow. Remember that life is not a linear process. It's again not an equation, not 1 + 1, then solved, then I don't have to deal with this anymore. No. Sometimes you have to take a step back and reconsider. And that is a step back doesn't mean that you are doing wrong. It just means that you're working hard and that yeah, life is not linear. So keep asking, keep enjoying, keep traveling, but also remember to rest enough for then
Nice.
continue.
So, if I understand between the lines, so recent years or months has been a lot of hard working and big challenges, right?
Yeah, especially, well, yeah, moving from country to country, a little bit of corona. I mean, I just can't count anymore how many times I have moved in the last four years, but every part has been awesome. The Netherlands is a dream come true. I mean, Netherlands to live in Rotterdam also was pretty amazing. But yeah, it also requires a lot of like internal work. So you can be in paradise, but working hard internally.
But yeah, everything has a cost, you know. If not money, it's health
Mhm.
and thinking and time and energy. So yeah, I completely understand you.
Yeah, and it's very nice to get to get to know new people, but it also means that, for example, you are not so able to go so deep in those relationships if you keep
Because you're
moving.
moving. Yeah, you're
Exactly,
moving. You can people will not invest in a relation with you.
exactly, and the people that you grew up with, they it's hard to keep a long
Yeah.
distance relationship of any kind. So yeah, it has been working in that area. I finished my degree. That was I was happy to have the title, but not happy to finish. I want to keep learning. I want to keep doing this. And well, now is again adapting to Norway, learning Norwegian, interesting language, while looking for a job. That's what's happening right now.
Keep up the good work, and also like about finding job, you will find the job. It's a question of time. So just like breathe, you know. Yeah,
Keep
exactly.
calm.
Keep calm, as how you told yourself. And so the next question is about
Mhm.
you giving us, the listeners, three takeaway messages.
Okay, so the first one, if it was not already very clear, keep asking questions all the time. Ever about what you think you know, keep asking. Even if you, for example, have been 12 years with your partner, keep asking questions. People is evolving, things are changing, and I think that stay teachable. I want to be 80 years old and that my grandkids ask me something and I say, I don't know. Let's find out. Keep asking. The second will be with this whole thing of well being and taking care of yourself first, taking care of the people you love, taking care of the people around you, the people maybe that you don't know, but the people that surround you in your daily life, and definitely the planet. It's really time to understand that we have so much to gain by very little actions. And an important thing to realize here is that We don't need to do everything, and we don't need to do everything perfect, and we don't need to go big. I was reading an article that was saying like coherence is a trap. Be coherent is impossible, and if you are coherent all the time, it means that you maybe are not growing so much. So maybe, I don't know, you eat meat, but you don't travel so much by airplane. You choose whatever you want to do. You don't have to do anything, but do something. Take care of yourself, take care of the people that you love, especially if they are apart. Don't let the distance you, and of the planet. And third, there's this phrase that I really love from a song from Hozier that says, fall in love just a little bit every day with someone new. And it's like, in the same way that you are asking questions, be able to maybe experience every day like a kid, like wondering, and like this idea of falling in love, like let you go, this thing of no, let you go, fall in love. If it hurts, it hurts, but what matters is that you tried. Try for everything. Fall in love of everything you can find. Doesn't need to be a big thing, but find that spark in everyday life. It's not so easy, and it's not, if you don't do it, doesn't mean that you are doing something wrong. There's also hard days, and days where you say, sorry, I just can't find anything good today. That's also okay. But yeah, keep falling in love.
Interesting. Very interesting. And the last question is you going to ask to us. What is your question?
Okay, so I think that we live in a world that already has given us like a list of things to do in order to be happy. I would like to know, what is your own list? What is your paradigm? What is your success, well-being paradigm? What is what actually you want to do in life, and what is what actually makes you happy according to you? Not to your culture, not to your family, according to you. What is your paradigm? And the other one would be like, how do you take care of those around you?
Thank you so much again, Paula, and I'm really happy that you shared with us your thesis, and congratulations again. And I wish you all the good luck with all your projects.
Thank you so much. I hope that now that we are so close, we can meet one day. And also congratulations for this podcast. It's awesome. I really think that one of the best first steps we can do is open the conversation. To have a safe space for talking about something is a privilege that a lot of people doesn't have, and it's a privilege that we need to use. And the work you are doing is awesome.
Thanks, Paula. Well, thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. You learned something new and also got inspired by the guest. Don't forget to share the episode on your social media and recommend it to people you think they are really interested in this topic. Thank you so much again for giving your valuable time to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif. Keep up the good work. Keep loving cities.